The reviews for Victoria 3 on Steam are still mixed, and because of that, I've decided to list off the 6 main issues that Paradox needs to fix to make this game great. Number 1, power balancing. Victoria 3 has a very big problem with the balance of power. You see, in this game, difference between great power and everyone else is frankly absurd from a gameplay perspective. Let's take a look at nations that are only 2 places apart from each other on the list: Spain and Prussia. I'll first point out the fact that Prussia's prestige total is over double that of Spain's. This is not a great start, but it gets worse. You see, in terms of military potential, Spain starts out with a solid 284. That's not too bad until you realize Prussia has 1,200 military power. That is nearly 5 times the strength of a country only 2 spots below them on the list. Well, now hold on. Prussia is known for being militaristic in history. Surely this is just a cherry-picked example. Well, dear viewer, I calculated the average military power of all other great powers, and they all combine to an average of 1,288. Spain cannot compete with any of these powers, nor can any other power below them, meaning that if you want to actually play as anything other than a great power, you are essentially playing a stealth game of trying not to fight any great powers, which is actually super difficult because of the next entry on our list. Number 2, the AI is stupid. This has been a hot topic for every grand strategy game Paradox has ever released. There are always problems with the AI, however, in Victoria 3, it's pretty egregious. They will often choose to be actively hostile towards nations that have been their biggest supporters over the years. The AI also tends to backstab its allies for the most minor of reasons. It's not uncommon for great powers you're on good terms with to side against you in minor wars for minor power obligations, which is basically nothing in return. Now, this might sound like the AI has a problem with aggression, but this only pertains to the nations choosing sides in wars, because the AI very rarely starts any wars out of its own interests. In fact, if left completely alone, the map will hardly shift at all over the course of 100 years, despite how much it actually shifted in real life. While the AI isn't intent on starting wars, the AI is, however, completely gung-ho about beginning World War I at every player-started conflict. This overall confusing AI behavior makes for a very frustrating experience, often leaving the player completely in the dark as to whether they should or should not start a war. Number 3. The diplomacy sucks. For a game meant to be all about market, government, and diplomacy, one of those pillars is far weaker than the others. In real life, diplomacy is a tool used so that both parties involved can get what they want without any bloodshed. This simply isn't the case in Victoria 3. When a diplomatic play is launched, there is no diplomacy to be had. You cannot offer to trade something in exchange for what you want. The option simply isn't there. The only option you do have is fight or give up whatever it is your opponent wants. This is not diplomacy in the slightest. The only diplomacy that does exist in Victoria 3 is the relationship number between you and other countries, and worse yet, the only number that actually matters is 80 and above. Anything lower in the AI can and will support your enemies in wars against them. Even if your relations are at a positive 79, that nation is still liable to take your enemy's side in a war. Not to mention that getting up to 80 relations in the first place can be all but impossible for some weaker nations, as great powers often choose to completely ignore smaller power requests for trade unions or defensive pacts, once again leaving smaller nations at the whims of the great powers. Number 4, reinforcements. The warfare topic has been beat to death already and is supposedly getting a rework soon, so I'll try to make this point a little more original. When warfare happens in Victoria 3, a seemingly random number of troops is pulled from both sides of the fight and into a single battle. Then the winner of said battle either gets to hold on to or advance the front. I shouldn't have to explain why this is stupid. Battles in history are not arbitrary numbers of battalions going head to head. What actually happens is those troops are packed onto the front lines, and as those lines start to wear down, more troops are pulled to fill in the weaknesses. This is where the whole "we need reinforcements" line comes from. The line needs to be reinforced with more troops in order to hold defensively. I'm not sure why this feature is absent from Victoria 3, but it's rather baffling. In fact, this is probably one of the biggest oversights by Paradox in all of Vicky 3. Number 5. Peaceful growth. What I mean by this is a way to expand your territory without any bloodshed. There is no option to offer to buy states from countries. There is no offer to trade states with countries. You can't even annex your own subject without some form of war. I find this to be rather odd considering Paradox's other big 3 grand strategy games all include this feature. In Crusader Kings 3, nations will become your vassal without war. EU4 lets you peacefully offer vassalage, and even Hearts of Iron 4, the most war-centric game on the list, allows you to annex your subjects without war. So why is it that the one game focused the least amount on war doesn't let you expand without it? Well, honestly, I don't really know. This seems like a no-brainer to me. Number 6, journal improvements. This is the last big change I think Paradox needs to make to Victoria 3. As it currently stands, the only thing giving most countries any kind of uniqueness whatsoever is the journal tab. And a lot of the stuff in the journal tab is actually pretty fun to use. The problem with this, however, is just how unclear a lot of these entries are. Most journal entries work by triggering events that affect your country in one way or another. The problem is though, until you've done it, there's no way to tell what these events will do. So unless you already know what an event does, you're taking a risk as to whether or not it's even worth your time. This problem isn't very consistent either. Some journal entries are very clear as to what happens when you do them, like the Divided Monarchist entry that tells you exactly what will happen when you complete it, while something like Religion, Autocracy, Nationality only tells you the name of the event that will trigger when you complete it. Official nationality could mean a number of different things, so unless you've done it, you won't have a clue as to whether it's a good thing for you or not. This wouldn't be a hard fix either, just add a little tooltip that explains what an event does and you're set. This really falls under the no-brainer category for me, as I'm not really sure why this isn't a thing yet. Needless to say though, the simple change would have a pretty big impact on the game's overall enjoyment for me. And there you have it. These are the 6 problems Paradox needs to fix in order to turn Victoria 3 into one of the greats. But maybe you disagree with me. I know a lot of people on Reddit do, and if you fall under that category, be sure to let me know how dumb I am in the comments below. Anyway, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.